Hi everyone, can you hear me? Hi Denise, can you hear me? Hi Marcia. Hi Terry. Hi Alison. Marcia's saying yes, so that I'm assuming means you can hear me. Hi Ted. Hi Barbara. Barbara, sorry, yeah, it's been a bit crazy. In actual fact, Hannah has literally in the last 15-20 minutes just left to go over to Doncaster, which is where she's playing tomorrow. And the only reason I've not gone tonight is that she has a friend that lives in Sheffield who's playing in the same comp. So Hannah's picking her up on the way through because she doesn't drive. And they've got to play 36 holes tomorrow, and Hannah's out at 8:20, and I've got to drive over to Doncaster to be the caddy. So I'm going to be leaving around about 6:30 tomorrow. So yes, that's why I'm here tonight. Ted's saying can hear me, Terry's saying can hear me. Hi Charlotte, hi Karen. Karen, I've sent you an email in about the last 45 minutes with some information. Have you had it? Hazel, hello. BJ, hello. Kareen, hi. Carmen. Is it Newfies? Good afternoon from Newfoundland, Canada. Wow. Love. Oh, did you hear the clock chiming, Marcia? Sorry, yeah, it's my clock in the hall. Hi, Lisa. Hope you're okay. Gia, Michigan. Hi, welcome. Chris in Halifax. Corinne can hear you loud and clear. Denise can hear me. Francis, hello from Ireland. Good luck for Hannah tomorrow. Yeah, Lord knows. I mean, to be fair, the last few weeks it's just been raining every Monday. I think the first two comps we had nice weather, we had sunshine and it was lovely for the first 2 weeks. And then the last 2 weeks it's been absolutely throwing it down. And I don't think the forecast is great for tomorrow. So, hi Rosemary. Hi Susan. Newfies, my aunt was from Newfoundland, okay. No, just finished dinner, we'll have a look. Okay, well basically Karen, I replied to the email that you sent me this afternoon, but literally it was only about just after 4. But then I did a bit more investigation and I've sent you a separate email with some steps to follow because I'm not sure whether you've done that, and that might be why you're not being found. Okay, but if you once you've read through that email with all the, I've kind of given you a bit of a step by step of what to go and look for and what to do. If you're still struggling, you'll have to let me know. But like I say, I won't be around tomorrow because I've got to leave early, and Tuesday I might be around in the morning, but probably will be gone for about 11:30, 12:00, because again I've got to go off somewhere with her on Tuesday. Ted saying here in Texas we're supposed to have rain all week, flash flood warnings. This is crazy for me. I know, Ted. We've literally had thunder and lightning, big heavy downpours, and the next minute it's sunny. And then at the bottom of our lane, can't remember when it was now, last week, the electricity went out everywhere in the village because a tree had come down and taken the overhead cable down. Newfie's saying, thank you so much for your video on the cake topper. It helped me so much. Oh, great. Well done. Thank you. Right, let me get rid of this. So as the thumbnail title said, Hi Veronique. I want to just go over the shaped cards. I know I've done this, several times, and I know there's definitely more than one or two videos on the channel, but this question seems to come up quite a lot, and certainly in the last 2 weeks I've had somebody telling me that they're still having trouble trying to do number shaped cards, and the Vienna card that I made has been ever so popular, and somebody was saying they were struggling with that. So I'm in Canvas Workspace for computer. If you want to use the download version, that's up to you. I just always really tend to lean towards the online version, unless I want to use a specific font, and then I use the download version. But for showing you this today, I'm just going to use, the simplest version, which is Canvas Workspace Online, and use the fonts that are in here. Hi, Mags. So there's kind of no one specific way to do this. It is a little bit of trial and error, although there is as well a kind of a process, which I suppose is a bit contradictory. But I'm going to try and, if I can, recreate some of the problems, although, you watch, I'll be trying to show you this today and I won't hit the problem, but you never know. So I'm going to start off with a number shaped card. So it looks as though you can all see my Canvas Workspace screen, and I've made it full screen. So I've not seen Vicky on here today, but usually Vicky likes me to be in full screen. So if she is, or she pops on, then the full screen for view is for Vicky, and anybody else that may or may not find it helpful. I tend to not use my screen in full screen. Don't know, it's just a habit. So, right, I think I'm caught up with everybody's hellos and one thing and another. So let's make a start. So I'm going to come over to the text, and I'm just going to choose one of the fonts that are in Canvas Workspace Online. So for the first one, I'll choose this top row on the right, which is called Brussels Demi, and I've just clicked it with a left click on my mouse, and then that puts the word text on the screen. Sue's saying, hi everyone, very dark skies in South Derbyshire, but we seem to miss all this rain everyone seems to be having. Well, we in North Derbyshire, Sue, I tell you, it's been non-stop all week and most of last week. It's been awful. Anyway, let's crack on. So, as I say, I selected this, and it just comes up with the word text. One little tip I would give you here, when I'm making these things, I don't tend to make them a specific size. I kind of just go by how they look and how they're going to fit on an A4 piece of card, because invariably that's what I use when I'm cutting anything with the ScanNCut, is A4 card. And obviously with my Stampin' Up, it's the majority of the card I use when I'm making card bases is A4. If any of you have got the Brother sticker kit activated, which I think you will find, let me see, where is it? It's probably, under the premium tab. If you've not got a premium tab, it means you've not bought any of the additional options that are available, okay? But if you've got a premium tab, you can see here on mine, it's showing the rhinestone and the sticker kit. Now, if you've got the sticker kit, if you come to view, no, it's edit, no, project, I get there in the end. If you come to the project tab, you'll have these area sizes, and these only show up when you've bought and activated the sticker kit. So our mat by default is 12 by 12 on the screen, because that's the size of the mat that we put into the machine. But when you're making shaped cards or word shaped cards, you kind of want to make sure that they're going to fit on the piece of A4 card that you want to cut them from. So a good way as a visual aid is to come here, but this, as I say, only works on the project tab if you've got the sticker kit activated. And you can choose A4 portrait or A4 landscape. If I choose A4 landscape, straight away you'll see, although I've still got my 12 by 12 mat, my red bounding box now has moved. Instead of being round the full 12 by 12 perimeter, it's come to be an A4 size. And this is like a visual aid, if you like. And I do use this. Or another option, if you've not got the sticker kits, I'm just going to go back to project, change it back to 12 by 12, and then come back over here on the left and come to basic shapes and grab a rectangle, and then just drag a rectangle out to be about, 8 by 11.5, something like that. And it's just a visual aid. You might not need it, but sometimes I find it's helpful when you're making shaped cards. So I'm just going to I'll make it just under 11.5 by just under 8. So that's kind of representing my A4 card, if that makes sense. I'm just going to put it on one side and then I'll show you how I use it. So now I'm going to click on the word text and then I'm going to click it again so that I get the flashing cursor. And then I'm just going to use the delete key on my keyboard to get rid of the word text. And I'm going to type 25. So we'll start off with a 25. And then I'm just going to left click anywhere on the page to deselect. And that now selects the number. Let me just see what Ted's saying. I wish Brother Canvas would allow us to save shapes so we could create rectangles, A2, etc. and then just insert. Ted, I'm not sure what you mean, but you can. If you make a rectangle in the size of A2 and you save it into your Canvas workspace, it will show up here under My Projects and then you can just drag it in. Is that what you mean? Okay, so because I typed the 2 and the 5 as one word, if you like, I know it's not words, but in one action, they're grouped together. And the first thing I want to do is ungroup them or break them apart so that I can line them up so that they kind of overlap a bit, and then then I can then go ahead and resize them and turn them into a card. So if I right click, you'll see there's no ungroup option, and that's because I typed the 2 numbers in one action. So the way to split these up is to use divide. Now when I hit divide, now you'll see that the 2 and the 5 are separate. So what I'm going to do is select the 5 and just using the 4 directional arrows on the keyboard, I'm going to scoot the 5 over until it overlaps the 2. Now, again, this will vary. The result that you get here will vary depending on the font that you choose. Now, if you look at my 5, if I click away, the bottom of the 5 is more or less touching the bottom of the 2, but there's a gap at the top. So I'm going to keep moving the 5 over until I get an overlap both at the bottom and at the top. Because if I don't, and then I come to make this into a shape card, there's going to be a big gap here and this is going to flop around. So selecting the 5 and I'm just going to keep moving it over. I only need it to overlap enough to be able to, at some point in the next process, weld this together. So I can see now, if I just zoom in on here, I can see that it's overlapped just a tiny little bit here, but it's overlapped a lot more at the bottom, and that's because this element of the 5 is wider than this top element, but that's just this font. Some fonts are very symmetrical and you won't have to worry about it, but these are the kind of processes I work through, so that's why I'm showing you them. So I'm just going to go back to 50%. So with these 2 selected now, I'm not going to weld them at the minute, but what I am going to do is group them. So I tend to use the right click on my mouse all the time for shortcuts to bring up this shortcut menu. But you know, you can come up here and you can group them from the edit menu. So for now, these are a group. They're overlapped, but they're not welded, okay? Now this is where I would bring in my template, if you like, this is the simulation of what would be my A4 card. So I'm going to bring this back on and position it on top. Now, I might have to right click and send this rectangle to the back to get this to stay on top. Basically what I do, I will drag out a corner until I kind of get to not quite half of the width. And then I, look at it and I think, actually, okay, I'm going to have this card in the horizontal orientation, but 3.5 inches high, which is what this is showing me it is down here, is too small. So then I would drag it out. I could make it as big as, 7 or 8 inches, or I can just kind of make it whatever I think. So this is kind of my process. And as I said, this is where I don't use exact measurements. But if you wanted an absolute specific measurement, then you would obviously, alter your width and height. So this is kind of the first part of my process. So with that selected, I'm going to right click and make it a duplicate and put the duplicate on one side. Now, I'm just going to select this and bring it over to the right, and I'm going to make another duplicate. And then the one on the left needs to be flipped, it needs to be mirrored, so that when I come to join these two elements together to make my shape card, when it folds down the middle, the back of the two comes to the front, to the back of this front two, if that makes sense. You need to flip it. So I'm going to get to edit, and here's flip. Now this is the one I want. I want to flip it horizontally. Okay, and now I can move my rectangle out of the way, and I can now choose either one of these and bring these closer together now until they overlap. So again, I'm just going to use the 4 directional arrows on my keyboard and scoot them over until I see that they're overlapped here and here. And these are, but I can see that they're not lined up. So I'm going to select both. And again, you can either right click and you can you align from here? Maybe not. So we'll select both. We'll go edit and we'll align them on the bottom. Okay, so they're lined up along the bottom, so we know that when this turns into a shaped card and we fold it down the middle here, we know it'll stand properly because they're aligned on the bottom. We can see that they're overlapped at the top of the two and here at the bottom of the two. So now I could effectively just weld these shapes, but I'm not going to at this point. But what I am going to do is group the two grouped sections, because if you remember, the 2 and the 5 are not welded yet, they're just grouped. So this 2 and 5 that are the reverse are the same. And I now want to group the whole lot. So I'm going to select everything, right click and make it a group. Right, so before I go any further, is everybody with me so far? I mean, I will be repeating this and hopefully we'll get on to doing a name. Hi Anita. So Anita's saying, hi everyone, hope you're all okay. Late, but no worries. Literally, I've only just started, Anita, don't worry. Hi Lynn, hope you're okay. Just finished your dinner. I've not had my tea yet, so I'm going to get that after we finish. Okay, so I've got the two sets of numbers grouped to each other and then grouped together. That's as far as I've got so far. So when I move these now, they move as a group. So you could weld them at this point, but I sometimes find that if I weld at this point and then I find out that something's not going according to plan, I have to sort of keep hitting the undo to get back. So I've kind of found that just making things, lining things up how you think you're going to want them to look and then just grouping them temporarily works a bit better. So with this selected now, I'm going to come to edit and I'm going to come to the offset icon. I'm going to make sure I've got outward selected. I'm going to take my offset down to 0.12. And by default, under options, usually this create an offset line only around the outer edge is selected. Now, if I do that, it will only create me an offset line, as it's saying, around the outside of the 2 and the 5. But I want the middle pieces of the 2 and the 5. I want the definition. So I need to untick that and then say OK. Hi, Rachel, hope you're OK. So now it's created me an offset line, and the one that it's selected is the first set of 2 and 5. Hopefully you should be able to see that. Now if I left click and try to drag this away, this is what happens sometimes. It doesn't let me drag the whole selection away, so I'm going to undo that. I can clearly see my offset, which is the bigger line. Hi Heather. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit just on this top section for you in the hope that you'll see it better. And then I'm going to come back to my arrow to deselect the magnifying glass. And what I want to do, I want to get either the original set of numbers or the offset. I find it easier to grab the offset because that's the outermost line. So I'm going to hover over this top offset line on this first number 5 here and select it. You can see I've got it selected because the bounding box is round this outer edge. I'm going to hold the shift key down on my keyboard and then I'm going to select the outermost line on the next number and on the next number and on the last number. So I've got all 4 selected now. I can let go of the shift key and I can right click and group. Now I'm going to come back to 50% so you can see what I'm doing. So I've now grouped the offset, and if I now drag that away, you can see, hopefully, if I select that, it's 6.48 high, and if I select this, which was my original one, it's 6.2. So this was my original set of group numbers. This is my offset, my bigger layer, if you like. And this is the layer that I would now go ahead and weld and make as my base card. The other numbers I will use as matting layers. So, just making sure there's no comments and everybody's okay so far. So, this is all a group now, and you can see it's all overlapped, but I need to weld it because if I just sent this to the machine and cut it, the machine would follow all these lines and it would just chop it into bits basically. So with this bigger offset layer selected, and because I unticked that box that said create me a line only around the outside, because I said no, I don't want just the outside, that's give me all the middle bits of the 5 and the 2, and that's what I want. Now you may prefer just to have all this solid. If I do this again, I'll show you what I mean. So if I select this and come to edit and come to offset, take it back down to 1.2 and make sure that box is checked and say OK. Now I'll have to undo it again. So now I'll have to select the outermost layer. So I'm going to make sure I've got the icon selected. I'm going to select the 5, hold the shift key down, select the 2, select the 2, select the 5, right click and group, and now I can drag that away. And for some reason it's not done what I want. But, you know, that's Canvas Workspace, isn't it? So let me just... I thought it was literally going to... I know why it might be, because these are not welded. Okay, yeah. If these were welded and then I did outline only, it should only give me an outline. So we'll scrap that one for a minute. I'll come back to that one in a minute. So let's just carry on from where we were. Okay, so Ted's saying, question, should we make the 5-inch flat on the edge to meet the 2 edge? I don't know what you mean, Ted. Should we make the 5-inch flat? They need to overlap so that they weld. Bonnie, don't worry, it's fine. It should be being recorded. Right, let me just come back to this and then I'll show you what I mean again in a minute. So I'm going to weld this together now. So I'm going to come to Edit and Weld. So that's my shape card. So let's just fill it in with a colour, because sometimes I think when I fill things in with colour, you see them better. Okay, so this would be the base card. So when this was folded down the middle here, this 2 and 5 would come behind this 2 and 5, and that would give you the number shape card. Okay, now me personally, I'm going to make a duplicate of this top one because I want to show you what I mean in a minute. So me personally now, I would just ungroup this and get rid of that one, and I've got my 2 and 5 here that are overlapped. Now again, you've got options. You can weld this now as it is, so let's go Edit and Weld, and that makes that one item instead of 2 separate elements. But this, if I fill this in with colour, let's fill this in with red, and let's just bring it to the front so it sits on top. So this now would sit like that as a layer, welded, or let's bring the other one back in, and I'm going to flip this back round the right way. So let's do Edit, Flip Horizontal, so it's back round the right way, and let's fill this in with red, and let's ungroup it. So you could either, this would be your base shaped card, you could either weld the 2 and the 5 together and have that look, or you could cut these separately. Oh, I need to bring them to the front. So let's right click, bring to front, right click, bring to front. Or you could layer them up separately. And what you could do, you could maybe stick the 2 down flat on the card, and then you could pop the 5 up on dimensionals above it. So you've kind of got 2 different looks. So is everybody with that so far before I go and experiment with this again? I want to do this, I'm going to go over it again using a different number, because I want to use a number that's got holes in the middle, because sometimes there's like an extra step that you have to go through. So I'm just waiting for the comments to appear. Just to make sure that everybody's okay with that so far. So Charlotte's saying all clear. Barbara's saying great. Okay, so let's just move that one out of the way and we'll bring this one in. So this is the, and Lisa's saying yes, great, okay. So this one is just the original that's still the 2 or the 4 separate numbers, and I've just ungrouped it. So if I select everything on this one and weld it first this time, okay, so that's now just the original size, but now welded. If I come to edit and offset, take the offset down to 0.12. You can make this whatever size you want. You can make it bigger or smaller. I'm just using 0.12 as my example for today. And then this time I'm going to untick. I'm making sure it's on outward because I want the offset to be bigger. And I'm going to untick this box here now. Now this time it should only put me a line around the whole outside and not give me the definition, the holes in between the 2 and the 5. So now when I bring this out of the way, see, it's not doing it. See, sometimes Canvas just makes a fool of you basically. Really what it should be doing is literally not putting these bits in the middle, but for some reason it is. So again, it might just be the font I've chosen, it might be the numbers I've chosen, it might just be that Canvas is being difficult. But I want to try it with a different set of numbers because, like I say, sometimes you have a problem when you're using numbers that have a hole in the middle. So like an 8 or, for example, a 9 usually has a hole in the middle. And it also, you sometimes have the same problem when you're using things like A and E and O on letters. Right, let me just see what Ted's saying. The 2 is flat on the bottom and 5 is curved a bit. Oh, I see what you mean, Ted. Yeah, but because I lined them both up on the bottom edge, it doesn't matter. It should still stand. I see what you mean now. Yeah, that's fine. You can do, if you want to adjust them. This font I found. I'm going to use a different font in a minute, but I found with this font that happens with that the one of the numbers, although they line up on the bottom, does look as if it's slightly higher or lower, and it's just the font. And this is what I was saying. This is what I meant at the beginning when I said the results that you're going to get will be determined by the font that you choose, the size that you make it, the numbers that you're using or the letters that you're using. So yeah, you can line, if you want them exactly, then just when you break them apart, just manually move them up and down. So I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to bring in my mock A4 piece of card, and I'm going to put this on here. And I personally would use the welded one, but again, it depends on the look that you want. So if you now want to make best use of cutting this from your A4 piece of card, the first thing you need to do is line everything up. Because we're in Canvas Online, we can't resize without we make it a group. So if we select everything, right click and make it a group, bring our template, which is our mock A4 piece of card, back in, line this up in the top corner and then drag it out. And you can drag it out and drag it down, and that will more or less give you a 25 shape card, more or less the size of a full A4 piece of paper. Now I'm going to get rid of my rectangle out of the way. What you have to remember to do is ungroup it before you send it to your machine. And then obviously I would save it up here and save it into Canvas Workspace. And then once it's saved, so if I just call this 25 and hit save, and Ted, this is what I mean when you were asking before about making an A2 template, this would be exactly the same. So if I now go to Canvas Workspace at the top of the screen and go to My Projects, that is now saved in here. But if I choose a new blank page and come to My Projects over here, it's also saved here. So if you wanted to make a rectangle that's the size of an A2 card, that's how you do it, and it's saved for you. How would you or could you make a dash line in the centre for a fold? Yeah, okay, right, so let's bring this back on. I'm going to delete, oh, I need to undo that for a start. I'm going to delete this rectangle because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to delete that. Then if you want to make a fold down the middle, you come up to the path icon, which is up here, and left click to select it. Then I would left click somewhere above the centre of your card. It doesn't need to be exact because I'm going to line it up. Left click once and let go of the mouse. Press the shift key down on the keyboard, and then without pressing anything on the mouse, just drag the mouse down, which will give you a perfectly straight line. I'm not pressing anything on the mouse. I'm just dragging it from, up or down or side to side. But because I've got the shift key held down on my keyboard, that's giving me an absolutely perfect straight line. And now I'm going to, still holding the shift key, I'm going to left double click on the mouse, and that anchors that line. Now I need to come to the properties box, and I need to make that selected line a cut line, and then come down to where it says patterns and choose whichever dash line I want. Now if I take the fill out of the number 25, hopefully you'll see that better. I'm going to select both of these, and I'm now going to go edit, align on the centre, and edit a line on the middle, and that's going to put that dash line straight down the middle, so that when you send this to the machine, it will cut this dash line, and then it will cut this solid line for your shape card. I would select both and make them a group, and then bring this back in, and then you can cut this from, say, a white piece of card and fold it on the dash line, and then you could cut this separate 25 in any colour you want, and it will layer up on top. So are we all okay with that for now? Hi Tony, don't worry, it's fine, it should be being recorded. So now I also, but this is just me, I kind of tend to separate them on my mat. But again, that's entirely up to you. You don't have to. And you don't need to have it filled with colour. It's, again, the machine doesn't cut by colour, so it doesn't know there's a colour in there. The colour is just a visual aid for when you're working. So if I now go to save and say OK, it's given it a generic name. So if I want to save this now as 25 again, I'm just going to highlight that generic name, put 25 in and save, and it's going to say, do you want to overwrite? And I do. So I say OK. I go back to Canvas Workspace. Let me get rid of this message. Go to My Projects, and there's the two 25s I've just made. This one here is the one without the dash line. This one here is the one with the dash line. So if I think, well, actually, I do want the dash line left in all the time, I can get rid of this one, so I can hover over it. The cross comes up, I can select the cross, and I can say, yes, delete it from my Canvas files. So now I'm going to come back and start again with a new project. Marcia's saying thank you. Alison's saying mesmerising. Right, so this time I'm going to create a number shaped card. I'm going to use a different font and a different number. So Teddy's saying, okay, can we save only in the online canvas? No, Ted, if you're using the downloadable version, you can save using the downloadable version as well. And I have got a video on the channel showing how to do that. I think there's a video that's called Which Canvas Workspace Am I Using, or something like that, on my channel here. And I do a side-by-side comparison for both, and I'm sure in that video I show you how to save in both versions. The reason I like to use Canvas Workspace Online is because you're just using their cloud storage. It saves having all your files on your computer. But sometimes you need to use the download version, like I said at the beginning, if you want to use a specific font. that obviously isn't available in Canvas online. Right, let's come back. I'm going to crack on. If there's any more questions, ask me and I'll watch for them. I'm going to come back to text again. This time I'm going to use the first font. This is a more chunky font, and I've found, I think it's this one, that all the baselines on the numbers tend to be on a level line, which in the font I've just used is not necessarily always the case depending on the number that you choose. So let's choose this one. So this time we get the word text again. I'm going to double click to get the flashing cursor. I'm going to use the delete key on my keyboard to get rid of the word, and this time I'm going to use 18 as a number. Okay, and then I'm just going to left click anywhere to deselect. Now again, because I typed the 1 and the 8 in one process, they're not joined, but they're basically grouped, if you like. But again, there's no ungroup option. So if I come to edit, you'll see that nothing's highlighted here. If I right click, I don't have any ungroup options. So we have to use divide, and that breaks them up. So again, if I now click on them, they're separate numbers. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select the 8. I'm going to use the left arrow of the 4 directional arrows on the keyboard, and I'm going to scoot the 8 over until it overlaps the number 1, top and bottom. And again, if I zoom in, you'll see that this number isn't symmetrical. And by that I mean that the bottom part of the 8 is touching the 1 here, but it's not at the top. And again, you want it to touch top and bottom, because if not, this will end up being a gap. And when you make your card, this 8 will flop around from the number 1 and it won't stand on your mantelpiece nicely. So I'm going to select the 8 and I'm going to keep scooting it over until I get an overlap here. So the overlap at the top will be less than the overlap at the bottom, but that's just how it is sometimes, depending again on the font that you choose and the number that you choose. Some line up top and bottom without any messing, some don't. And this is why, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but this is why there's kind of no exact process to doing this kind of thing. So let's scoot it over until I can see it's overlapped at the top and bottom now. I'm going to select both. I'm going to right click and make it a group, and then I'm just going to go back to 50% so you can see it. Now again, if you want to bring in, you know, your shape as your guide, if I come to basic shapes and bring in my rectangle and just drag out my rectangle, you know, until I get about 11.5 by, you know, 8 or thereabouts. It's not vital because you can always resize it at the end. And then I bring in my number, and then because this is a group now, I can resize it. So again, I'm going to start to stretch it out until it's kind of about half the size of my rectangle. Again, I can make it taller if I want to. I could weld a rectangle on the box so it had like a platform on the bottom. It, you know, you just play around with it and make it work. I'm going to get rid of the rectangle. Hi, Leslie, hope you're okay. Ted, it's fine. Just keep asking the questions. That's why I'm here. Right, so I've kind of got a rough idea based on my, you know, my template here, how big this is. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put it over on the right. This is just how I do it. I'm going to right click and create a duplicate. I'm going to bring my duplicate over to the left and flip it. So with it selected, I'm going to come to edit, flip on the horizontal, and then again, it doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm going to scoot one of them over so that the numbers overlap here. Now you can see there's nothing here. So if I made this into a shape card, we'd have that same problem where there'd be a big gap here and it would just kind of flop around. So this is where I would use a rectangle, or this is where, if you don't want to have a rectangle welded onto the bottom, what you can do is, in fact, we'll do it both ways. I'll create a copy of this and I'll put it on one side. So I've got them overlapped. I'm going to select both of them and make sure that they line up together. Now you can align them on the bottom or on the top. It's up to you. I kind of tend to use the bottom, but that's just me. So I know that they're aligned. Again, we've got a little slight difference between the bottom of the 1 and the 8, but it's marginal and it, your card should still stand okay. I've got them both selected. I'm going to right click and make them a group. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. Now, with the group selected, I'm going to come to Edit, Offset. I'm going to use the same spacing as I've done on the previous one, 0.12. I'm going to say outward and I'm going to untick create an offset line only around the outer edge, and I'm going to say OK. Now again, it may or may not let me move the number, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to, sometimes if you click on the outermost, it selects everything and sometimes it doesn't. So again, these are all individual elements, so I've got to separate them. So I'm going to zoom in just on the top section, deselect the magnifying glass by selecting the arrowhead. I'm going to hold my shift key down. I'm going to hover over this outside line of the 8. Now that moved, so I'm just going to undo it. So I'm going to hold the shift key down, select, 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 and select all the top lines, right click and make them a group. So that's now grouped my offset lines. I'm going to come back to 50%. So now I can drag one away from the other, okay? So again, if you're unsure, select one. You can see that the height of this bottom one is 5.82 and the height of the top one is 5.58. So we know that this is the offset. Now the reason I'm telling you to do that is because if you've only used a small offset, sometimes it's difficult to tell which one's the offset and which one's the original. So now this is the one I would want to weld. But again, because of this great big gap, if you weld this wouldn't stand very good, okay? So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to come back to my original one and I'm going to bring in a rectangle. And I'm going to, let's see how wide this is. So this is 10.31. So I'm going to make this rectangle 10.31. So if I come to Properties, untick Maintain Aspect Ratio and make it 10.31 wide. And then I generally make mine about 1 inch high. But again, it's preference, it's up to you. You can make it whatever you want. I'm just going to say 1 inch. I'm going to bring it in so it overlaps the bottom. I'm going to select both of these and come to Edit and align them centrally so I know that they line up. And now I'm going to group them, okay? So now I'm going to do the offset. You could weld this, as I say, but I sometimes find that once you've welded it, if when you come to do a bit more, something doesn't work out, you've got to mess about doing the undo. So I find if you just kind of line it all up, how you think it's going to look as a finished project, but just do it as a group, and then create your offset and then just weld your offset, then you've still got your bits, your elements to go back and mess about with if you need to. So this is all just grouped at the moment. So let's go Edit, Offset, 0.12, outward, and untick and say OK. So now I know that I'm going to have to come back and select these again. So I'm going to come to the select icon, hold the shift key down, select the top line of each one of the 4 numbers and the outer line of the rectangle. Drag them all down. So this is all the offset. And now I can go to Edit, and weld. Now, this is why I wanted to show you a number 8. Can you see the middles have disappeared? And this is what sometimes happens when you've got letters or numbers with middle bits. So I'm going to undo, okay, and I'm going to show you hopefully how to put this right. So Alison's saying, this is so helpful, the support part, thank you, easy when you know how. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, remember, these are all individual elements. And the reason that the bits disappeared was because of these holes in the middle of the 8. So if I just select on this 8 and fill it with colour, you'll see that the whole thing is filled with colour. There's no holes in the middle. I mean, technically, the black line is there, but they're not punched out. And that's why it won't weld. That's why the definition disappears when we weld it. So what you've got to do, and you need to do this with anything that's got a middle bit, okay? So I've got this one selected. I'm going to come to Edit and hit Subtract. Now, can you see the holes have been punched out? So I'm going to select this one. I'm going to fill it with colour again so you can see what I'm talking about. Can you see it's all black? I'm going to go to Edit and Subtract, and that puts the definition back in. Now, when I select these 5 elements again, so the 4 numbers and my box, and I do right click and weld, this time the middles of the 8s should stay because I've subtracted them first. See? Are you with me? Is everybody with that? So now I can come back to my top one. I can right click and ungroup. I can ungroup again till I get my numbers, and then if I fill these with red and a position, I need to bring them to the front, so I'm going to right click and say bring to front, and then if I position them over the 8, you can see that they sit nicely within the card because we made an offset bigger. These are not welded, these are still just 2 separate numbers, but they're grouped together, so I can ungroup them, and I can do like I did on the first one and use them separately. Or if you want these 2 to be welded together, select both. Now again, if I weld, the middles may disappear, so let's try it. We'll go right click and weld. Okay, now I don't think they've disappeared this time because these were the original numbers. I think they disappeared on this because we made the offset, and that offset created the line around the outside of the 8 and the line around the middle of the 8, and that's what made them separate items. So this is what I mean. The more you practice and play making things like shaped number cards or letter cards, the more you'll get to understand how the process works. So that would be another card. Okay, now you might not like this rectangle on the bottom, and again you could put your dash line in if you want to. I prefer to score mine manually. I don't use the dash line. I use it very, very rarely. So that would give me a shape card, which would be like in the horizontal. If I bring my, let me just scoot this over a bit. If I bring my, template, which is my A4 piece of card, and I select both of these and bring it over here, and because we're in Canvas Workspace, to resize, we've got to make them a group. So again, now I could drag this out, and because I've got them grouped, they're resizing in proportion. And then I could drag this down, and then this would basically make you a shaped card, more or less the full size of your A4 piece of card, so you wouldn't be wasting card. Again, I'm just going to get rid of this and this because it's distracting, and the box for now. So again, I would ungroup and I would just kind of separate them. And then I would come up here, and in the project title, I would call it A4 horizontal, if I can spell, and save it and say OK. Now, because that's saved into my Canvas workspace, I can get rid of this and delete it and bring in my original. Now, if you don't want the box, you can make it like a tent-fold card or a portrait or a top folding card. So again, this is my original 1 and 8 that's just grouped together. Right click and create a duplicate. This time, come to edit, and instead of flip horizontal, choose flip vertical. Line them up so they overlap here. Select them both, edit, and again, you can align them on the left edge, you can line them centrally, and I know I've got more of an overlap on the 8 than on the 1, but that again is just the way the number is. I'm just going to make a duplicate of this one and put it on one side for a minute. Oh, wrong one. There you go. So these are lined up. So if I select them, right click and make them a group, now I can come to edit, offset. I'll use the same 1, 2 again, 0.12 outward, say OK. What's going on here? Something's not right. Hang on, let me undo. So I've got that. Let's go edit, offset, 0.12 outward, OK. Let's see if it'll let me. No, again, it's split them up. So again, I'm going to have to choose carefully my outlines. So let's hold the shift key down, and I'm going to choose the outline of the number 1 and the outline of the number 8 on the bottom, and then should be the bigger number. So is it flipping them? Let's see. So that's those. I'm going to right click and group them, but it's not, for some reason, although I've got the offset, it's flipped my numbers here the wrong way round. So I'm going to ungroup them. I'm going to select the top 2 and right click and make them a group, and I'm going to flip them back because I need the ones to line up. So I might have to flip them horizontally and then vertically. Okay, so now they line up. Are you with me? So the 1s line up and the 8s line up. Select them both, right click and weld. Now again, the middles might disappear, but for some reason Canvas is playing up. Let's try it again. Okay, now can you see what's happened? It's the middles have disappeared because I didn't do the subtract, and it's flipped them, which I don't want. So I'm going to undo. I'm going to select the number 8. I'm going to fill it with colour so you can see what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to go edit, subtract. So that brings the definition back in. And I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm going to ungroup it, select the 8, fill it with colour. Again, just so that you can see what's happening on screen, and edit and subtract. Now, this should weld, and if they don't, then obviously there's maybe a bug or something, I'm not quite sure. I might have to weld the 2 numbers individually, separately, but we'll see. So I've got everything selected now. The holes have been punched out of the 8, and I'm going to go weld. There you go. Now it has welded this time. So this is what I mean. It's like a process, and I think The reason that it didn't like it was because the holes hadn't been punched out of the middle. So now, if I move that off, this would be, I'd fold this here, and this would be a top folding card, and I've not got the platform. So someone's saying my video's frozen. Okay. Well, everything looks as though it's still recording. So frozen here, can hear but not doing anything. Okay. Let's just see what happens. Let's give it a few more minutes. I can see on my iPad now that my cursor's moving. So hopefully in a few minutes you should catch up. So let me know when you can see I'm jiggling the cursor around. So Leslie's saying you can see. So has it come back for everybody now? Just let me know before I go on. Mine's okay, Karen's saying. So all as I'm doing at the moment is just jiggling my cursor. Rachel's saying it's back now, everything okay here. Julie's now saying it's frozen. Alison's saying it's back now. Okay, it jumped to where you are. Okay. Okay, now everyone's saying back again now. Okay, don't know why it froze because everything was looking okay, but just lost 2 minutes. Right, okay. Where did you lose me? Did you all see that I subtracted the holes from the 8s and that then helped me weld it? Just let me know if everybody got what I was doing or where I need to backtrack to. Everyone's saying back to normal now. Alison's saying yes. Julie, if yours is frozen again, I'm watching it on my iPad and on my phone because I always watch it in various places so I can see what everyone's seeing, and it's all still working for me. So Julie, I would say go out and come back in again, and for anybody else do the same. If you can hear me, go out and come back in. Barbara's saying no, didn't see the holes when you sorted the flip. Okay, right, so let's undo. So this, I had no problem on iPad. Didn't see you remove the holes. Okay, so this, I've just hit the undo. So hopefully I should be back to just the offset of this. So let's just try and weld it and see what happens. So we're going to right click and weld. Right, so they've disappeared and they've flipped. So I'm going to undo. So this is where you lost me, I think. Okay, so I'm going to ungroup the first top set of numbers and click away. I'm going to choose the number 8. I'm going to fill it with colour so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, I've done the backspace, Alison, so you should all be back to where I froze now. Everything's still moving on all the phone and the iPad that I'm watching you on, so it should all be okay. So I've just ungrouped and I've filled with colour. So I'm on this black number 8 now, so if I come to edit and subtract, the holes are back in, yeah? But it's flipped this number, so I can see that this is the narrow part of the 8, but if I fold this in half, it's not going to line up, so I'm going to select this and I'm going to flip it vertically. But it's not flipping, so I don't know if Canvas is playing up now. Or let me just see. Let me try edit flip horizontally. There you go. Okay, I'm going to choose the bottom one I'm going to fill it with colour again, just so you can see it. I'll choose red this time, doesn't matter which. And I'm going to go to edit and subtract to punch the holes out. So the top part of this 8 is smaller than the bottom part. And for this to line up properly, this has got to be small as well, and that's why I had to flip it. That's it from there. Yes, can see now. Okay. So this is just a process. You're just going to have to keep your eye on it. You're going to have to work through this process. So now if I select all this and weld it, it should weld together as I expect it to look as a finished card, and it should all line up. So let's right click and weld, and there's my card. Okay. Now I can move that over. This is going to be my card. This will fold across the middle here. If I bring this in and fill this one with black, because we've got a red as being used as the base, this, I need to right click and bring it to the front. This will line up here now. So this would give you a top folding card. So if you didn't like, let's go back to my projects. If you didn't like the card like this here, let's just move this over a minute, make a bit more room. Let's bring this back on. So if you didn't like the card with the rectangle welded to the bottom, then you could make it just a complete number shape card and do it vertically. Okay, right, Julie, you're just going to have to go back and watch it because watch it later, because I've just literally recreated it all again. So that's what I mean about the process. It's not a straightforward process. It's not like, I can't do you like a 1 to 10 bullet point saying, choose this font, type this number, do this, do this, do this, because it all is determined by the size that you make it, the font that you choose, the number that you choose, whether it's got holes in the middle or not, and that is the same for letters. So if you're making a word, like hello, and you've got your E and your O in lowercase, they've got holes in the middle, it's the same process. Alison, I like the top fold better. This personally is how I would make it. Sometimes I do use platforms, but me personally, if I was making a shape card, I would be more inclined to make it like this. So I'm just going to get rid of this now. And that's obviously the second option. Now again, that lines up on there, but I'm going to get rid of that one and bring this is the same size as this. Again, if you wanted more matting layers, just make more layers from this. So from this one now, I can weld it if I want to. So let's do it differently this time. Let's weld. So this is now the same size as the black one. So let's just make this a different colour. Let's make this. So if I put that on top, you'll see that's the same size. So if I want to make another matting layer now smaller, I can come to this one. I can come to edit, offset. This time I'll choose inward. I'll say maybe, let's do 0.08 on this one. And let's say OK. And that's going to give me a smaller offset. Now again, it's not punch the holes out. So if I come to edit and subtract, that punches the holes out. And that would give me another matting layer. So you can go on and on and on. So Alison's saying, practice and playing like you said. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just a case of working out the steps, really. And once it's the same with everything, isn't it? Once you, the more you do something, then when you hit a problem, you know what you need to do to put it right. Me personally, I probably wouldn't use that layer, so I'd get rid of that and that. I would probably just stick to having my shape card and then put this on top. And this would make, a beautiful card for, say, an 18th birthday. You could make the base card white, make this in silver, and then, you know, add some decoration or some flowers or some stamped images or whatever. So that's that. Now I want to go on and show you how to do letters. Yeah, if you want to hide the platform, cover it up. What I tend to do if I'm using a platform, I tend to stamp my greeting on it, and like you say, I put flowers on it. A bit like we did with the teapot card in Canva a few weeks ago. If you remember, we used a platform on that, and then I created those flowers and stuck them on the platform part of the card. So sometimes when you're making something, you have an idea in your head, and then when you come to put it together and start welding shapes, it doesn't look how you expect, and you just modify your design. And if that means adding a platform on to get you the best look, then add a platform on. You know, if you can't flip something vertically, sometimes not everything works out looking vertical, they can look a bit odd. Okay, so let's get rid of these because I've got enough shape cards. I don't really need to save them. So I'm going to go back to Canvas Workspace. I'm going to say, yeah, leave that, and start a new blank page. So the Vienna card that I made was really, really, really popular. And again, some people struggle with that. And again, it tends to be when you're using letters that have got holes in them. So I'm going to come to text. I'm going to choose the first font. I'm going to double click it to get the flashing cursor. And I'm going to type the word Vienna. Now I'm going to do it all in uppercase, because if you're making shaped cards, I find that they work better when everything is all one level. And if you, so, you know, either make it all uppercase or all lowercase, but you'll find with lowercase that you have, do they call them like descenders, you know, like on your Y's and your G's. So I tend to find that uppercase letters work better. So I'm just going to put the capital locks on my keyboard and type Vienna and hit just left click on the page to deselect. Okay, and then I'm going to turn the caps lock off on my keyboard. Now again, this is another one where you might want to use your template as a guide. So if you bring a rectangle in, this to me would be a top folding card. So I would rotate this and drag this out so it's about, you know, 8 by 11.5 ish. It's only a guide, as I say, it's not vital, but it just gives you a visual idea. So let's make it so it's just under 11.5, and let's make it about 8 or thereabouts. Like I say, it's not vital. So again, this would just give you an idea of how wide your word is. So again, we do the same process. That was the very first card I made. Everyone loved it, thanks to you. Oh, thanks, Rachel. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to right click and hit divide so that all the letters become individual. Now for this one, because when you're using uppercase, you have a lot of straight lines. If you start moving these letters, like if I just move this over and I weld this would all look like one big mess. If I just weld that together, so you see what I mean. You see, you kind of lose the definition. So I'm going to undo and I'm going to put the E all the way back to where it was. So this is where I probably would use a platform. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to group them together. So I've split them up, which, you know, I maybe didn't need to do if I'm not going to weld them. But again, If you don't, when you then come to weld the two elements together or weld the rectangle on, you may hit this problem with this hole in the A. So it's better if you divide them up now. Right, let me just see what people are saying. Thank you so much. This is my first time on a live feed. However, I watch you on YouTube every night on my iPad in bed. Oh, thanks, Julie. So what I'm going to do, this name more or less fills the width of what would be my A4 card. So I'm going to select it and take it in ever so slightly, but I'm going to bring it down so it's taller. So can you see this would just about cut from A4. So I'm going to make it even a bit smaller because I want to create my offset. So I'm just going to drag a corner and shrink it in, just so I've got room here for the offset to be made. So this is my name, Vienna. And again, I know that from this I would probably want to put a platform on it. So I'm going to put the platform on now so I can see that the whole word is 7.08 wide. So I'm going to select a rectangle and I'm going to come to, let me just get rid of that, sorry. Select the rectangle, come to the properties box and make it, what did I say this was? I've forgotten already, 7.08. So 7.08 wide. And I don't want it that high. I'm going to make it an inch again. Oh, I forgot to untick maintain aspect ratio. So 7.8 wide by an inch high. Bring this down, overlap the bottom of my letters, select both, come to edit and align them centrally. Okay, and now I'm going to make them a group. So from here, I'm going to create a duplicate and I'm going to go edit and flip. Is it horizontally? No, undo. It's vertically. So edit, flip vertically so that all the letters are going to line up. I'm going to overlap them ever so slightly here in the middle, select them both again and align them so they centre. Now before I do anything, I'm just going to select the bottom one and make a duplicate because I forgot. So I'm going to try and weld them and see if I lose the middles of the A's. So I've just got two lots of grouped items together. So let's go edit and weld. Now again, can you see it's flipped them? And that's because because we need to punch out the middle of the A. So it's welded, but it's welded it wrong. So I'm going to undo so I get back to where I was. I'm going to choose the first, the top backwards name and rectangle and ungroup them. And then I'm going to choose the letters and ungroup them. So now if I just select the A and I fill it with colour, let's see what happens. Now that is already how it should look, but for some reason it doesn't like welding it together. So again, this is the process you kind of need to go through. So let's just try welding the rectangle and one set of names. So I'm just going to select these and see if it'll let me weld them first. So we're going to edit and weld. So that's welded. So now I'm going to choose the bottom one and let's weld that separately. And now let's fill them with colour. So we'll choose black for the top one just so we can see what's going on. And we'll choose red for the bottom one. So they're overlapped. They're both in the right orientation, how I would expect them. Now I'm going to select, but they've been welded separately. So this top name has been welded to this rectangle, and this bottom name has been welded to this rectangle, but they're not welded together. Okay, so now if I select both and weld them, they should weld without flipping. So let's try and see what happens. Fingers crossed. There you go. So again, this time it wasn't playing up because I'd not punched out the A. It was playing up because it just didn't like the fact that I'd flipped and had got all these extra elements. So again, it's just, you know, another process you need to go through. But one thing I have forgot to do, I've not created my offset, have I? So let's undo. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. How big's that? That's 3.76, and that's the same. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to come back to my first one, and I'm going to create my offset, because I forgot to do my offset first. So this is the first one I made. I made the duplicate, but I welded the wrong thing. So I've got a duplicate up here out of the way. This is my first one. So let's go. Now we know this is troublesome, so let's try it this way. So we'll just make an offset of one part of it and see what happens here. So we'll go edit offset. We'll go 0.12 outward and untick and say OK. So now I'm going to have to do what I did before. So I'm going to select the arrow, hold the shift key down, and I'm going to select the V, the I, the E, the N, the A, all the top lines, and the outer line of the rectangle. Right click and group them. Okay, so that is my offset. But yeah, okay, so let's put that out of the way. But we've lost the definition, can you see? So I know this might be a bit confusing, but it kind of is trial and error. So let's undo. And we'll get rid of that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to ungroup this. This is my original. I'm going to ungroup the name. I'm going to fill the A with colour and see if it's got the punched out section or not, and it has. So I'm going to weld this first, which is contrary to what I would normally do. So let's go edit, weld, and now make an offset. Edit, offset, 0.12 outward and OK. And there is my offset. Now, I might be losing some of the definition here because of, let's just see, yeah, there's nothing underneath. So again, it might be a bug. It might be because they're all separate. I'm not sure. I'm just going to keep undoing and let's see what's happening. So all the letters are separate, but for some reason when I create my offset, oh, I know. Hang on, I'm going to group the letters again and I'm going to line up the rectangle. I'm going to centre the rectangle. Maybe that's, it says it's centred, although it's bigger here than here. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this rectangle ever so slightly bigger so it extends beyond the A. And now let's see what happens. So let's go edit and weld, and then let's do edit, offset, 0.12 outward and say OK. Let's see what we get. Let's do edit, subtract, and for some reason it's not putting in that middle bit at the top and I don't know why. I don't know whether it's my offset's not big enough, or let's try a different offset. So we'll go edit offset. Let's take the offset down to 0.08 and do edit and subtract. Yeah, it's the size of the offset. I'm not sure how well you're going to see this, but if I zoom in here, it's trying to put the hole in the middle of the A. So let's go. So it's because of the size of the offset I'm using. So let's get rid of that. Let's bring this one back. Let's do edit offset. Let's take it down as small as we can take it, which is 0.04, and say OK. And then you can see I've lost the definition, but if we do edit, subtract, the hole's bigger. So on this particular instance, I'm losing the definition in the top part of the A because of the size of the offset I'm choosing. Okay? So this is 3.76 high and this is 3.84. So this is my offset. So this is my original. So let's come back to this. I'm going to take the fill out. I'm going to create a duplicate of this. So right click duplicate and I'm going to flip it. So edit. I always choose the wrong one. There you go. That's right. So it's edit, flip vertically. So now when I bring this down, these are going to line up. I'm going to overlap them ever so slightly here. Select both. I'm going to go edit align center so I know they line up, and then edit and weld. And now I've got what I would expect. So I'm going to add a fill. So let's choose a red fill. And then let's come back to my original. Right click and bring this to the front, and that will sit on there, but it's only a very, very, very small offset. But what you could do, now we know that this works, we can go edit offset and let's make it 0.8 and say OK and bring this one down. Let's get rid of that one. Come to this one, you can see that the bits need punching out, so let's go edit subtract, and then now bring this to the front again. You've got a bigger offset. So again, because I've made this bigger, I've lost the middle of the A. So again, that might not happen if you used a different font. So this is what I mean about it being a process. Right, let me see if we've got any. I know I've missed. So Mandy G is saying, hi Ashley, sorry I lost track of the time and couldn't believe when I looked at the clock and it had gone 6. Oh, don't worry, Mandy, hopefully it's all still recording. So a few people said it did freeze for a few minutes in the middle, but hopefully, it's not froze since and everything seems to be okay. So Juanita, hi. Don't worry, Juanita, it's fine. Trial and error, Leslie's saying, yeah. Alison's saying, yippee. Brilliant, remember you doing this card, Ashley. Yeah. I didn't use this font when I made this card originally. But again, I don't remember having all these problems. But Vienna has just turned 4. So that card was made 4 years ago. So, I could have forgot that I had problems. I honestly don't know. But I don't remember having this kind of problem with it. But again, you've got to kind of work through the process and you've got to look at it and say, right, why are the bits disappearing? Is it because I need to punch them out? Or in this particular case, the bits were disappearing because the offset I was using was too big. So again, it's just a process of elimination. Right, we've got, well done, Ashley, you have the patience. The patience of Job. How about making it wider? Yeah, you can, as you made it taller. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. These are all personal preferences. I'm just kind of really trying to troubleshoot. I personally tend she's my great niece, Leslie. She's beautiful. Shaped cards I tend to use more for numbers or initials. I don't make a lot of cards using a full name, but I do make cards using an initial. So, you know, for instance, I would make a card in the shape of a V or a H for Hannah, or an 18 or a 25 or a 21 or a 16 or a 6 or whatever. I tend not to generally use a full name, but when she was born, because her name was so individual, I wanted to make a card using her full name, and that's why I did it. But me personally wouldn't always make a card with a full name. I would just choose a letter. So like when Hannah was little, one of her best friends was called Hannah, and the other Hannah's mum was called Sam. So one year I made Sam a card in the shape of an S. And I did like I showed you with the 18 and the 25. I made the shape card, layered it up, and then I, you know, die cut some flowers and I put them on and I stamped a greeting on it, or I might have even drawn the greeting with the ScanNCut, I can't remember. So it's kind of all personal preference. It's you know, whatever you want really. I've From whenever I first started making, from my very first electronic cutting machine, which was a Craft Robo, my thing has always been shape cards. I used to make all shape cards for all Hannah's class friends when they were little, you know, in like 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 18 and whatever. And again, occasionally I did, you know, an initial as a shape card. So you just kind of have to play with it. And like I said, there's no one answer fits all. It's all going to be determined by whatever letter or number you're using, whatever font you're using, whatever size you're using, whatever offset or, you know, inward offset you're using. There's lots of variables with these things. And if I had to make a video for every single one, my channel probably would just be full of videos on shaped numbers and letter cards. So that was why, as I say, just recently I've seen a couple of comments, one specifically on the number shape card and one on the Vienna card. So that's why I thought today I'd come on and I'd kind of try and do a bit of a troubleshoot. I know it, you know, it was a bit confusing because it was a bit confusing for me on this one. But hopefully it's recorded. If you go back and watch it and you hit the same problems, then hopefully you'll be able to sort it out. Now I've just seen word book in big letters. Yeah, I've done word books. They're about the only thing that I would use a full word for, Alison. And again, they'll probably be, if you go to my website and go to blog, and in the search box of my blog type word book, there'll probably be some old blog posts coming up. There'll probably even be a video on my channel. But yeah, word books are great. And it's funny you should say that, because when I was thinking about doing this today, I was thinking, should I do a word book? And then I thought, no, because that's not going to really answer the two queries that I've seen come up in the last couple of weeks. Right, let me just go back because I've missed a couple of comments now. Is it good to see it's good to see all the process. You are so patient and great at this. I wouldn't have this patience. Well done. You will, Shannon. Once you start to use Canvas Workspace more and more and more, and you get to kind of work out what the different weld and subtract and divide and all that mean, it does become a bit easier. But like me, you forget or you hit a problem and you just literally have to kind of backtrack and work through it step by step. Rosemary's saying, great tutorial, Ashley. You have been blessed with such patience. You're welcome. Could you try a word book on a Sunday? Yeah, I tell you what we'll do. We'll do word book next. I think she's playing in Manchester next week, so I shouldn't have to go away on Sunday. So we'll do word books next week, because they're a whole other process. But again, word books, you can make a name of them. I have done word books using the word baby in the past, and when somebody's had a baby, I've created a word book in the name of baby and decorated the pages. Could you try a word book on Sunday with names or occasions? Yeah, same thing. You just choose whatever word. It's the same process. Leslie's saying, ditto, Alison, you are campus queen. Karine is saying, I would like to see a word book. Okay, we'll do word book next week. Any particular word, anybody? And now I know you're going to all give me a different word, aren't you? Rachel's saying, thanks for your time. Great tutorial as always. Thumbs up. Oh, yeah, please give the video a thumbs up. I know a lot of people do, but lots of people just do it on like the chat. It needs to be the thumbs up underneath the video, but thank you, they are much appreciated. It just lets YouTube know that people like this kind of content, and it helps people that are struggling finding videos for ScanNCut to find my channel, because YouTube will push them out more. So Alison's saying, okay, thank you. What, you want a word book in the with thank you, or you're just saying thank you? I would like to do this for gift tags for Christmas. Yeah, that's another thing, Shannon. I've done tags in their initials and put them. I've like wrapped the presents in plain, say plain gold paper, and I've cut an initial as a tag. Another year, which will be on my blog somewhere, I cut all their initials in vinyl, and instead of putting the names on presents, I just put their initial in about a 6-inch high vinyl letter, and that looked good. Rachel is saying, off subject, how is Hannah getting on? She's doing very well, thank you. For anybody that doesn't know, my daughter is a full-time amateur golfer. She's hoping to be turning pro maybe next year, possibly. And what she's doing, she's playing in professional events every week, but as an amateur. So she's playing with men and lady professionals, the mixed gender competitions. So she's putting herself out there as an 18-year-old amateur who plays off scratch, more or less. Putting herself out there in competitions with lady and men professionals, and she's doing really well. But the last couple of weeks, she's been really, really struggling with her putting, and although tee to green, she's awesome, her putting's been letting her down. But we're going to see a new putting coach in the Midlands, I think it is, on Tuesday. So hopefully he'll sort her out. She has a coach for a regular long game, and he's brilliant. So if we can get the two working together, she's going to be awesome, even though I say so myself. So thank you, Rachel, for asking. But yeah, she's doing great. But tomorrow is a 36-hole comp, so I've got to caddy for 36 holes. I'm going to be dead. It kills me doing 18. And I've got to be there for 8 o'clock, and I'm at least an hour and a half away. So I've got to give myself 2 hours. So I'm probably going to have to leave. The more I think about it, I'm going to have to leave about 6. I'm going to have to be up at 5:30. I'm going to be shattered tomorrow night. And then Tuesday, as I say, we've got to go off to the Midlands, but she'll be driving then. So, right, let's see what's going on. So Charlotte's saying, great idea, Shannon. Barbara's saying, so worth the trouble, Ashley. It's so nice to make truly personalised cards. Yeah, they just make them individual, don't they? And they stand out on the mantelpiece. I'm doing a word book at the moment, Rachel's saying. Oh, hang on. Alison's saying perfect. Hi, Teresa, I hope you're okay. Juanita, I found if I walk away for a bit and go back later, it makes more sense. Yeah, same. You have to use the program regularly and not be afraid of it. That's what it is. It's like I said at the beginning, isn't it? It's practice. It's just trial and error. And the more you use it, the more used to its funny little ways. Yeah, let's see. You have certainly done that. Just saying thank you. Okay. Leslie is Retro Rita, by the way, if anybody doesn't know. Ashley, sorry, have to go now. Thank you so much for this evening. You are a star. You're welcome, Rita. Take care. Leslie, take care. Shannon is saying, I will cross my fingers for your Hannah. Oh, thank you. Tell her she will go far. Yeah, I'm hoping she will, bless her. Thank you. Right, I've just seen Lisa saying it's back. So did something happen, Lisa, again? Shannon's saying, what type of paper would you recommend when doing this? So for the card base, I use Stampin' Up, which is the thick Stampin' Up, which I think is about 240 grams. And then for the layers, again, you could either do it in card or you could use pattern paper. It's entirely up to you. But for the base card, so it stands, I would probably use at least a minimum 220 or 240 GSM. Karen's saying have to go. Hope Hannah does well. Yeah, no problem, Karen. Take care. Word book baby. Okay. Or patience as you have it in abundance. So we'll do baby. I'm off now. Thank you for tonight. You're welcome, Barbara. Thank you. Corinne is saying thank you for this evening. Very informative. Anita's saying good for Hannah. We have a golf course 5 minutes away. Furnace Golf Course. See lots of ladies playing. Oh, hope goes well and get an early night. Yeah, the more I think about it, the earlier I've got to be up, because she tees at her first tea time, I think, is 18 minutes past 8. She wants me there at 8, and I know it's at least an hour and a half away, and I usually give myself 2 hours, so I'm going to have to leave about 6. How about a golf word book? Would be good for your daughter. Yeah, don't forget everyone to like. Right, well, we'll do baby, because that was more or less the first thing I saw. And we'll do word book, all being well, next week. I'm positive I don't have to go away next week, but if anything changes, I'll post on the community board. So Teresa's saying, I love you Stampin' Up card for my ScanNCut. It cuts lovely, doesn't it? Yeah. Lynn's saying, I've spent 8 hours today designing a kinetic card. I always say, when I work with circles, never again. Got there in the end. Won't give in till I get the result I want. Yeah, that's what you just sometimes have to do that though, don't you? Right, so that's it, I think. That's my troubleshooting for today using numbers and letters. So if anybody's got any last minute questions, if you ask me them now before I go. It's 20 to 7, so I've been on like an hour and 40. Oh, that was my arm that cracked then, if anybody heard that. So I'll just wait and see if anything pops up. And then if not, I'll say thank you and good night, and I'll go and get something to eat. So Sue's saying thanks again. Ashley got to go. That's fine. Thanks as always. Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Anita. I'll just give it another couple of minutes. I can't see anything coming through, but I know there is a delay from when I ask to when anything starts to come up. So Terry's saying, thanks Ashley for another fun tutorial. Good luck Hannah tomorrow. Oh, thank you. Teresa Jackson going, ouch. Yeah, that was my elbow cracking. Yeah, you heard it. Oh no. Oh dear, that's funny, Hazel. Have a great night. Stay safe, everyone. Thanks, Shannon. Alison saying thank you. Night to everyone. Say hi to Jim, Alison. Heard that. Everyone's saying. So you did all hear it, blimey. Thank you for another great tutorial and your words of wisdom. Take care and stay safe. See you all next week. Yeah, same to you, Lynn. Thank you. Right, I am going to go then because I can't see any questions. So I'll see you all hopefully next week. We'll do the word book. I'll make a note on my little pad because by the time Wednesday or Thursday comes, I'll have forgot what I said we were going to do. So baby word book for next week. Right, scribbled it down on my pad. Nancy, I'm sorry, I'm actually finishing now, but it should be recorded. So if you give it a little while for the video to render, and just look in the live playlist, you should find it. And Juanita's saying, thank you, my husband's elbow cracks like that too. Oh dear. Right, I'm going to go, everyone. Take care, stay safe.